Monday edition of PFT OT, the place where we spend time talking about either things we didn't get to or things we'd like to talk about in more detail. And a thought occurred to me back in the first segment of our show today, Chris, as it relates to the Jamal Adams trade from the Jets to the Seahawks, that I really wanted to delve into, but I knew we didn't have the time to do it. I wanted to have a little more time to think about it. I oversold it potentially, but now we find out whether or not it was worth.
I'm really excited.
Are you ready?
I mean, it's the longest damn tease in the history of TV here, so let's go.
Here we go. We saw the Seahawks after the 2017 season pivot away from that defensive focus and begin to build the team around Russell Wilson. After the 2018 season, Russell Wilson became the highest paid player in league history with a 4-year extension, new money average of $35 million per year. There still is a lingering sense that Russell Wilson at some point may not be a Seahawk. Right. I know Seahawks fans don't want to hear that right now, but there is a lingering sense of frustration as to how he's used. You know, you're paying him all that money. Do you really let him throw as much as you should? When we did the top 40 quarterback countdown and we had the highlight package of Russell Wilson, it was obvious how great he is. And because there isn't that hair on fire element that a Patrick Mahomes has, it's not as exciting, it's not as obvious, it's not as stunning when Russell Wilson goes about doing what he does. So here's my point. You mentioned, and I think a lot of people are coming to this conclusion, that the future for the Seahawks, immediate and long-term, is Jamal Adams as the center of the defense and Russell Wilson as the center of the offense. I look at this and I say, maybe they've decided to begin to swing the pendulum back the other way toward the defense. And maybe at some point in the next couple of years, there will be a Russell Wilson trade that loads up the cannon with draft picks, that lets the Seahawks reset, that lets them go find a third-round quarterback who can become one of the better quarterbacks in the game because they don't want to pay Russell Wilson what he's going to want the next time a contract comes due. Now that Patrick Mahomes is at $45 million per year on average in new money. Could it be that this relationship is destined to fall apart? Could it be that Russell Wilson at some level wants it to fall apart? And could it be that this isn't the Jamal and Russell show long term, that this Jamal Adams trade is the first shot in a Roman candle that results in Russell Wilson not being with the Seattle Seahawks? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's not crazy. It's a little crazy. It's not totally totally crazy.
It's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Yes. Well, I mean, listen, I know what you're saying here. I mean, first off, we've seen this team has the ability to build the team with the rookie quarterback and build a special defense and have all the other pieces around it to where you go, okay, yeah, it'd be nice to have a great quarterback, but our team's so good, we don't need to be great at quarterback or pay him that money. And you're right. I mean, I don't think Pete Carroll or John Schneider are afraid to do that. Now, does this make that, you're right, maybe one step closer if we get down the road here, 2 or 3 years from now, where maybe they can get outside of Russell's contract to 2 years, right? So, maybe that this gives them a little flexibility to go, okay, well, we got a guy that we feel like can be the staple of our defense for probably the next 6 or 7 years and be a star, right? And yeah, maybe ride with that, see how things go here in a few years. But if they feel like, okay, we just can't quite get over the hump to be the team we quite need to be to get in the Final Four of the Super Bowl, and then you're right with all the Russell Wilson speculation, I think they're a team like the Patriots and maybe a few others that wouldn't be afraid to make those type of decisions. That's where I'll certainly back you, or make that type of decision and get rid of or part ways with a special player like Russell Wilson. But I think what you're doing here too is now that I'm starting to think about it and hear your theory, you're almost getting a little bit of both. Getting a little insurance on the back end, but also going, okay, hey, DK Metcalf, Philip Dorsett, Tyler Lockett, Greg Olsen. Whoa, we got some offensive pieces here too, and we helped out the defense just enough here to where we can legitimately win the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson right now, even though it might not be built the way we, as in John Schneider and Pete Carroll, would love it to be built. So, I mean, I don't think it's a crazy theory. I think it gives them a little leeway now, actually, with the Jamal Adams to kind of play both sides of this conversation.
And it definitely requires Russell Wilson to stay with the Seahawks 2 more years. That salary cap that's expected to be at $175 million in 2021 would make it even harder to move on from his contract. It would be a dead cap number of $39 million, I believe, if they traded him next year. So, or at a minimum $32 million. It's too much to take.
Yeah.
It's too much to move on. It's actually $39 million if they trade him next year. That's not good. Especially at a $175 million salary cap.
No,
so he's there 2 more years.
Yeah.
The question arises, I think, 2022. And by then they'll know. See, this is perfect. They have Jamal Adams under contract for 2 more years. This isn't the pendulum swinging. This is the fork in the road 2 years out. What are you going to do in the next 2 years? And if they give Jamal Adams a gigantic contract, if they give him close to $20 million a year between now and the completion of the 2021 season, or at the latest in the early 2022 offseason, that's when you have to ask, is the next move a move on from Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
I just think that we shouldn't assume, and this is my point, we shouldn't assume this is Jamal Adams, Russell Wilson, 5, 6, 7, 8 years together in Seattle as the 2 centerpieces of the team.
Yeah. No, Seattle's like New England. They'll do what they got to do.
It's going back the other way to the defense.
Right.
Because they won Super Bowls with a great defense. Well, a Super Bowl.
Should have been
won
2.
A second one.
Yeah.
But they won a Super Bowl with a great defense. The last 2 years, what have they gotten with this approach where Russell Wilson is the centerpiece of the team?
Yeah.
They lost in the wild card round in 2018. They lost in the divisional round last year against a Packers team they probably should have beaten. And if they had a better defense, they probably would have beaten.
Right.
So it's just something to keep an eye on, Chris.
Yeah.
It's something I'm very intrigued by. A couple of years out. We got a lot to worry about between now and then. Let's just not assume it's Jamal Adams and Russell Wilson for the next 7 or 8 years together in Seattle. It could be that it becomes Jamal Adams' team within the next couple of seasons.
Well, to add to what you're saying here, too, like I think one thing I'm not even sure Seattle really understands how to play through Russell Wilson yet, is what I would argue. Maybe they don't really know how to play that way. Maybe that's why, a Pete Carroll and John Schneider would want to go back to that old style, what you're talking about, winning Super Bowls through their defense and a running game. The last 2 years, we've kind of, let's go back. You just said it, wild card loss, divisional playoff loss. After both losses, we've gone, what the hell? Why can't they give the ball to Russell Wilson? Why can't they throw the ball more? Why are they wasting the ball, like running the ball like 8 out of 10 plays, every set of 10 plays through the first 3 quarters of the game and those big moments? So to me, I would challenge and go, I'm not even sure Seattle knows how to play through a quarterback quite yet. And we talked about this, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, to where, when we talked about Russell Wilson, they got to do him justice and just give him the ball and go here and open it all up more. And so that'll be interesting. And I also, here, Mike, let me ask you this question. First off, all right, there's 2 things that jump. I'll go one at a time here. 2 years from now, we could still have an affected salary cap, right, from the pandemic, right? So
yep.
It's 175 next year for the 2021 season, and then 2022 could also have, a chunk taken out of it. Even in that year, it would be $26 million of dead cap for Russell Wilson. If you're going 175 million again, let's just say in 2022, man, I'd have a hard time. This is where this is a game changer this year. I'd have a hard time thinking you could get rid of 1/7 of your salary cap there and just let it sit on the side in a year like that, which could affect teams and what they're trying to do here, in the future as far as building their team or their ultimate vision, to what your point might be here.
The other thing to keep in mind, and I think this is relevant as it relates to the Seahawks, Pete Carroll, right?
Yeah.
At what point?
Right.
At what point? And I'm not saying that they should move on from Pete Carroll, but my point is this. If Russell Wilson is not satisfied with how he's used in the offense, you either get an offensive coordinator who's going to use him the right way, or you get a coach that's going to use him the right way. If ultimately the choice is, not Jamal Adams versus Russell Wilson, but Wilson versus coaching staff, whether it's offensive coordinator or head
philosophy,
coach.
Right.
Is that where the pressure point really is residing? And that if they hey, and Pete Carroll, I mean, look, the guy could coach another 10, 15 years if he wants to. He's in great shape. He's got energy. He's got positivity. He's got optimism.
Best gum chewer in the game. Right.
If they haven't figured out how to use Russell Wilson by now, 9 years in, chances are they're not going to have some sort of an epiphany anytime soon. It could be that Carroll either has to go out and hire a coordinator who specifically will have a plan for getting the most out of Wilson. Of course, if it works, that guy will only be there for 1 year, then end up being hired as a head coach somewhere else. Or they got to get a head coach who's an offensive guy. Carroll's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Maybe and again, I'm not saying, I think it would be a hell of a risk because I would not let Pete Carroll walk away if I'm the Seahawks. But if your impasse ultimately is the head coach doesn't use the quarterback the way the quarterback should be used or wants to be used, and one or the other's got to go, you have to at least, if you're the owner of the team, you have to at least think through both possibilities.
Yeah.
What happens if we get an offensive-minded head coach who would get the most out of Russell Wilson and he stays here for the next 10 years? Or what if we just say we'll get a new quarterback and we'll save a hell of a lot of money because Russell Wilson's going to want, what, $45 million or more per year when it's time for his next contract?
Yeah, right. No, they're all good questions. They really are. And, I mean, I think your point that stuck out to me there more than anything is like kind of what you said with the Pete Carroll. Like, well, listen, just Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer are defensive coordinator, head coach type of hires for an offensive coordinator. Did that make sense? I hope it did. I tried to say that right. But those aren't like, those are offensive coordinators that fit like, oh, I'm a defensive head coach and this is how I want to play. I want to run the ball, control the clock, and play through my defense. That's how they are. You're right. If they wanted to go the Russell Wilson route and really go all in, you'd have to get, that next Kyle Shanahan type or Sean McVay type to go to the next level, to push the bar on the offense and bring some things in that, like I've always said before, like, there's certain things in football Russell Wilson doesn't even realize, he doesn't know what he doesn't even know. He's probably looking at plays that Brady and Breeze are running sometimes and just going, I don't get it. Like, how is that guy always open? What are they doing? And I want to just go like, sorry, Russell, you don't have that play in your playbook. It stinks, but you don't got it. And they don't coach it the right way, even when you guys do run it. So it'll be interesting to watch it all nonetheless. And hey, Mike, last thing here. I don't know why, but just with Jamal Adams being signed and a few of the other moves that Seattle made this weekend, is it you? Is it me? Or do I just feel like it's like Gideon Clowney is just inevitable to happen back in Seattle again? I just feel like it's going that way, another one-year deal.
I don't think so, Chris. I think it makes it less likely they're going to bring him back because whatever cap space they have, they're going to want to bank it for Jamal Adams, right? And he's not going to want whatever they offer. I mean, they could have done that tender that the Giants did with Marcus Golden that lapsed, and now Golden is going to stay with the Giants. And it would have been $15 million for Jadeveon Clowney, and the Seahawks didn't want to do it. So, it was, I may have the number wrong, but there was a floor as to maybe it was $16.5 million, but whatever it was, they didn't want to put that out there. And I think that it makes it clear that whoever ends up signing Jadeveon Clowney, it's not going to be the Seahawks because they've already decided not to put the kind of money out there close to what he's looking for. But hey, the deal from Friday changes everything for everyone. When we're looking at a reduced cap in 2021, the thing to remember is every additional cap dollar you spend this year is one fewer cap dollar you can carry over to next year. And the teams that are going to manage their way out of a mess next year aren't going to, if they got $10 million left this year, don't spend another dime. Save it, and then you're looking at $185 next year. So I think it makes it harder for Clowney. And maybe if there's nothing else, Chris, and the guy just wants to play, so I guess I'm going to, after 2 minutes, agree with you. Maybe if he has no other options,
that's where I just feel like
stay in the place where he's been. If there isn't the Titans or the Cowboys, or somebody else comes up with something to get him.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just feel like, it doesn't seem like a long-term deal is going to get done. It seems like he's going to end up signing a one-year deal. I know it's still early. We don't know what's going on, but he also had great success there last year, and it does seem like he liked playing there and fit in the environment and all that. Yeah, I'm just saying, it seemed like it felt like more of a possibility, but we'll see.
I'm going to call an audible here on our next topic because I see that ESPN is reporting that the Miami Marlins now have 8 additional players who have tested positive on top of the 4 who had tested positive as of yesterday. This is a full-blown outbreak of COVID-19 for the Miami Marlins. And this is baseball, folks. They are not on top of each other for 3 hours out on the field. This is the first major test for Major League Sports as to how they're going to deal with an outbreak of COVID-19. It's not good for sports. It's not good for baseball. It's not good for the Miami Marlins. We're going to see how they work it out. But I wanted to mention that, Chris, because this definitely has ramifications. The Miami team in one of the worst hotspots in the world right now in South Florida. Oh, and the Dolphins report tomorrow.
Right.
So this that's the thing. What we're going to have this year is it's roller coaster. We're going to feel good about it one day, and then something's going to happen that's going to make us concerned. And the question is, does the train ultimately stay on the tracks or does it go off at some point? And this Miami Marlins thing has to at least put on our radar screen the possibility that that there is going to be an outbreak that is going to shut the NFL down or shut teams down for 1 or 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very real possibility, but it's another glaring example of why we just got to get things in our country under control. Forget about sports, anything else. Anything in business is not going to go working the right way right now. Oh, really? The team in South Florida, where it's the hot spot of the world right now, they got an outbreak? I'm shocked. I don't know. So yeah, this is a societal issue that again is going to filter into American politics, economics, and all of those things. And until we do this right, there's no fans in the stadium. There's no people working, at the different stores in the stadium selling food, the vendors, all of that, and it all affects the economy because we don't want to wear a mask when we walk down the street because it doesn't go good with our outfit, or it's our freedom, or I'm just, okay, it's our freedom. I'd like to have our freedom back, and the way to get the freedom back is to start wearing the mask and doing the things that help the society. So what are we going to do? Just act like it doesn't happen and just let society be ruined? At some point, come on. It's just driving me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if this all falls apart as it relates to pro sports, this isn't because pro sports couldn't pull it off. It's because we couldn't pull it off as a people. Because we were too stupid and selfish to do what needed to be done. And now that we're waking up to it, it's a little bit too late. And the other thing I'd like to say is this, folks, and this is a general observation that I make based upon the fact that I leave my house about once a week to go to the store, just to get out and just to kind of see what's happening out in the world. In West Virginia now, masks are mandatory. But I can't tell you, Chris, the number of people who wear a mask that does not cover their nose. Or think it's okay to take a break from the mask and pull it down under their chin, like they're lifting weights, and this is just the set break until they get back on the bench. It's like the mask is mandatory. You cover your nose with it, and it's amazing to me that these stores will let people in, that they don't say anything to them when they do it. Everyone's afraid to say anything because they never know who's going to pull out an AK-47. It's just craziness. Wear the mask and wear it right, or stay home. It's that simple. Rant over.
Yeah, you don't even get me started. Okay, I mean, yes, you're right. I don't get it. We got to take the proper precautions. Yes, air droplets come out of your nose, all you scientists out there. So cover your damn nose. And if you want to pull your mask down and get a breather, don't be within 20 feet of anybody. Be outside in an area where you're away from anybody. Don't make other people feel uncomfortable. So. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many issues there right now. I can't even get started. I'll get us fired. Let's just go on to the next subject.
This is the ultimate character test for the people who give a crap about others and those who don't, and those who are willing to walk around with essentially a middle finger to the rest of the world. And there are people like that everywhere, and I definitely encounter them here. And, of course, I think about, should I say something? Should I do something? But it's like, I don't want to get stabbed. I don't want to get shot. And I don't want some incident that ends up on YouTube that I'm the star of. So I just get my stuff and I get the hell out and I stay away from the person who's not wearing the mask the right way or not wearing a mask at all. All right, last topic before we end this edition of PFTOT as it relates to the potential of outbreaks in the NFL. Peter King in Football Morning in America raises a possibility that I think isn't just speculation. I think he knows something. We do that sometimes in this business. We know things that we can't say that we know. but we try to get ahead of where the ball is moving because we know it's true, but we can't report it. The possibility that the commissioner will have the discretion to postpone individual games based upon the COVID-19 situation for a given team. Now, with a team like the Miami Marlins, it's a no-brainer, right, Chris? If you can't field 46 healthy players because of injuries, because of COVID-19, if you just don't have the bodies, then you shouldn't be expected to play. The idea, though, and Peter mentions this, what if the Vikings starting offensive line is all positive for the virus? Would the commissioner postpone a Week 7 game against whoever they're supposed to play that week because they don't want the Vikings to have their backup offensive line protecting Kirk Cousins? See, I don't think that's good enough. The NFL is the ultimate next man. It's next man up, right? As long as you have 46 healthy players who can suit up and play, you play. If you get to a point where there's enough of an outbreak where come Sunday morning or Monday night or Thursday night, you just physically can't put 46 guys on the field or on the sidelines, obviously not on the field, that would be a penalty. That's when it would happen. But anything less than that,
don't want to hear it.
If you don't have good enough backup linemen, then put your backup quarterback on the field. If you don't trust your backup lineman to protect your starting quarterback, and that's just the way it goes. We never make those accommodations for injury. The Eagles last year they would have loved to have postponed a few of those games when it was Carson Wentz and a bunch of no-name slappies around him, all due respect to those guys. We just don't do that in football. So I don't like it other than in a situation where a team would not be able to put 46 players in uniform.
Yeah, right. I don't want to – like if it's like just the two starting guards and we're going to cancel a game because we're like, we don't think we can protect –
No. Take it the step farther. What if it's the entire offensive line?
Well, if it's the
offensive line,
if it's the entire offensive line and you legitimately can't field like a starting five, okay, then of course that's where I go. Yeah, you got to do something here. But if you are like, okay, if it's 4 out of 5 and you got 7 backup offensive linemen who have been on the practice squad and are ready to go or anything like that. Yeah, I don't want to see a week canceled because of that, or just because we don't want Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers to get hurt this week. Like that's not a reason you cancel games. If you literally can't play the game, that's one thing. And then to me, what I don't understand here, Mike, is are they saying you'll cancel the Vikings-Bear game in Week 7, but the rest of football will play that week? So then we're going to have uneven schedules? How does a tiebreaker work? That to me is where I just don't understand it. Okay.
What would happen is potentially the game that gets canceled Week 7 gets played Week 18. And if there's a game that gets canceled Week 10, it gets played Week 18. I mean, as long as none of those games involve the same team, you can pull it off, right? Or you could have a couple of weeks on the back end. This is instead of wiping out a full week, there's been talk about, for example, they could take Week 3 and put it at the end of the season. They could take Week 4 and put it at the end of the season if they need to. Week 2, every game played in Week 2 is between teams that have their byes the same week. You could get rid of Week 2 and just play all those games in the weeks those teams otherwise would be on a bye. This is individual games in a given week. This team can't play, postpone this game, play it Week 18 or Week 19.
Okay.
That's what it would be. I still don't like it. I think anything other than 46 guys aren't available, you made your bet. You got to make your decisions about who's on your roster. You got to make your decisions about who's on your practice squad. You got to have enough guys available. And you know what? You may have to have a defensive lineman play offensive line this game. You may have to do it. You may have to have a safety play receiver this game. You may have to do it. That happens in football. And I think that it makes much more sense to go forward with the games and get the games in than start postponing games, having a slippery slope of a standard, and potentially getting to the point where you suggested, Chris, where you just can't get the games in. So you've got some teams that have played 15, some play 16, some play 14, some maybe play as few as 13, and you're determining playoff positioning based on winning percentage. I don't like it at all.
No, you're right. It's going to be something to watch out for. I guess the big thing is where do you like you're talking about, just where do you draw the line? Yeah, I want to. If you can get 46 out there, I want to see you play. But at the same time, if you can get 46 out there, but Mike, you got to play 3 defensive linemen on the offensive side of the ball, and they were only made aware of this like Friday night, so they're all of a sudden Saturday trying to figure this out. Now, I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's fair for players, player safety, all of those type of things. So I got to wrap my head around that a little bit more. I certainly want teams to exhaust all avenues to try to play, like you're saying, because I think it's going to confuse things and who knows what else the other repercussions are. But I also think there is a fine line of like, okay, let's not just field 46 and then have 15 guys get hurt because we just got our kicker playing right tackle this week against Von Miller, and all of a sudden our quarterback's dead too, let alone our kicker's dead from Von Miller running him over all the time.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, we are accepting the reality that this year is not going to have much competitive balance. There will be unfairness. Some teams will have fans present, some teams won't. I just think if we start going down this path of giving the commissioner the discretion to postpone individual games, and you don't have a hard standard as to what would postpone a game, you're really asking for trouble, because there could be a strong perception of unfairness that one team that is up against it has to play and another team doesn't and gets to play that game later. That's a dangerous move for the NFL to make, and let's hope it doesn't get to that. All right. That's it. We're done. We'll be back Tuesday with another edition of PFT Live. Everybody have a great day. Check us out all day long at ProFootballTalk.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.